My name is Holly, and this is my anxiety chapter. As I've mentioned before, I had a critical case of COVID that impacted my life in many ways, and one was within my own church. My church had resumed holding service again by the time I had gotten sick, but I confess my family's attendance was not as consistent. Anytime one of us even had a sniffle, we would opt to stay home, just to be safe and not potentially spread any cold or virus to those more vulnerable. We were still just into the first year or so of COVID, and a lot was unknown. It was in August of 2021 that I started my new job at a Messianic ministry, and then in November I got sick. I wasn't allowed any visitors, only nurses and doctors, completely covered in extra protective gear. The phone in my room did not always work, and my cell phone was near dead, so I had turned it off just to save enough juice to turn on and get out one last message if I got worse. And because of this, my pastor and others couldn't get a hold of me to pray over me. Pastor had confessed to my mother that being prevented from being with members of his congregation in moments like this really weighed on him. We had lost a sweet woman from our church July earlier that year as well. I was very weak when I came home from the hospital, and it took weeks before I would even leave the house, with the exception of the one disastrous doctor appointment the week I came home, the one where she accused me of being a drunk. I lived in northern Minnesota, up where Governor Walz called nothing but rocks and cows. It was bitterly cold, and just going down the short driveway to check the mail exhausted me. And my lungs still hurt years later if I walk into a very cold room, such as the produce section at Sam's Club. I'm getting off topic, but I promise I am getting back to the letter mentioned in the title of this post. A few weeks after I was home, but not yet strong enough to return to church, a letter came. Not the letter referenced in my title, but a factor leading up to it. The deacons and the board wanted to make sure the entire congregation was aware of Pastor's abrupt resignation, especially since many of us couldn't attend from being sick or with weakened immune systems, and my church didn't stream services. Something that had come up in a board meeting was, Pastor decided he was done. I know he loved our church, and I wonder if church politics and just so many COVID restrictions wore him down. Maybe God had been calling him to somewhere new for a while, and this was him making that cut to get Pastor to make the move. He moved out of the parsonage and was gone so quickly, no forwarding address. Something that has been weighing on me for the last 3.5 years is I never got to tell him about my new job. I never got to thank him for setting the foundation so that I would be equipped to join a Messianic ministry. Pastor taught me so much about the Hebrew roots of my faith. He helped me find my relationship with Jesus again after being out of church for over a decade. He helped fill in the missing doctrine that the churches of my youth failed me on. And this man opened my son's heart to Jesus. I tried looking him up on Facebook a few times, but he's not on social media, I guess. I found his adult sons, but I didn't think it would be appropriate to reach out to them when they had never met me as they lived in another state. Fast forward to a few weeks ago. My mom works for a loan company and uses several different resources to get updated addresses for folks who, well, have opted not to keep making their payments. On a whim, she looked up Pastor, not knowing that he was also heavy on my heart during that week, and it was also a week of prayer and fasting for me. We bought a card for him, and I ordered some stationery as I thought a handwritten note would be better. And they've been sitting here blank. I keep thinking about what I want to say, but worrying that there was more behind the scenes to his departure. My anxiety tells me that if he wanted to keep in touch with the congregation, he would have. But then I remember he is but a man, and even pastors have flaws. Maybe he regrets his rash decision, and maybe once he thought about it, he thought we wouldn't want anything to do with him. I worry he would find it inappropriate that we searched for him and got his address. Mind you, it was online for free. Part of me wants to cry because this is just so overwhelming. I don't want to be rejected, but I want him to be encouraged that he truly made a difference in my life, in my faith journey. And I thank the Lord that he put me in that little white country church with a bold and outspoken pastor. Honestly, living in Minnesota nearly broke me, in so many ways. But I do not regret my time there because my faith was renewed, and I have so much joy serving Him here at this ministry. I'm thankful to have moved away, but I miss my church family there. So why is it so hard just to sit down and write this letter? Why can't I get past my own thoughts and just do it? I sat here just trembling last night when all I did was choose a pen to write with. I couldn't even get as far as removing the cap. I think there is our clinical anxiety and perhaps a spiritual anxiety. For all I know, Pastor may already be with the Lord, and he never would read my letter. But if he's not, would it be enough to encourage him? That is my burden this season, is to lift up and encourage others. Not to say that I did it, but for them to simply be encouraged. I guess my prayer today is to discern, am I blocking myself with my own anxiety battle? Or is this a spiritual battle trying to block me from doing this?